When I first started teaching, there was actually very little technology in the classroom. I think we had overhead machines and that was it. So it's been a big learning curve over 16 years, and today I have a class website.
Personal experience is Smartboard, which I don't use too much anymore. Obviously computers, smartphones. I think smartphones are the best.
Personal experience with technology. Well, let's see. In terms of my professionalism, I have a master's degree in sociology, and much of what I dealt with in university was along the lines of culture and media. I also have a specialist in media studies. So technology comes easy to me as a teacher. I enjoy teaching it. 20% of the curriculum in English is allocated to it. In light of technology, however, I find that there's a big market difference upon graduating from university when I graduated versus the advancements in technology. So oftentimes I have to admit that I'm sometimes ignorant, and I know I need to refresh often, and sometimes I have to beseech the nicety of students to help me with certain setups or certain formats, etc. So I'm going to feign ignorance that technology has advanced so quickly that oftentimes I feel like I'm a bit of an archaic dinosaur, I'll admit that. But I guess from a teacher standpoint, I enjoy it, I work with it, I respect it, and in many respects it sets the context for education today.
Since I teach in a computer lab, it's mandatory and necessary every day of class. That's my subject area, so. My kids usually use their cell phone for taking board pics.
Okay.
Because I don't use overheads. I prefer to be interactive with colored markers. So they need to take pictures, and if they're in the grade 10 class, they then need to translate my board pics into a Word document that they print out and they put in their notebooks to keep their notebooks for the semester.
So I guess a bit of a continuum. Technology I've used more for staying on track, organizing myself, I think, in terms of websites, and then on kind of a review level, things like Kahoot, Jeopardy, games, and certainly videos. I use a lot of video clips to stay current in my grade 12 courses. So really, it's been really helpful and also kind of an organizational tool.
Okay.
In terms of positive experiences, I think the class website really helps students organize themselves, because often when they're doing their work and they're working on assignments, they're at home, but they might have a question, so they can consult the website about due dates or the specifics of assignments. But also another way that I think it's positive is using Kahoot, which has been a lot of fun. And I think it's been really a useful tool for me to use as a form of review. So if I want to check immediately to see how much students have understood a concept that I've recently taught, I think Kahoot is a really good tool, but it's also good for the student to know what they've understood and what they haven't. So I think it's really good.
I think positive experience with technology definitely is the outcome of students who pursue future careers, either in technology and or in media. I'll give you a really great example, actually. Vanessa Castiglione was our school president last year, and she's currently in a program, a joint program at Western University with regards to Ivy. SLANT is actually, in fact, with regards to technology and media. I think she did a fantastic job of using media to really get the word out, from the Mac monthlies to us setting up our first Mackenzie app, all of which I think has great potential because the world is changing, and ultimately I think the positive aspects is teaching our students how to be media literate and to really have access and hands-on, because I think technology is the way of the future, and from the way it goes, social media seems to really define who we are. So I think it's become a very lucrative career for many students, so I think that's a very positive outcome.
Positive experience? In general, smartphones are fantastic because if you're doing something in any class, it doesn't matter what subject, and you want to access something that's topical and in a timely fashion, these guys all have their phones and they can find stuff immediately, okay?
I would say honestly every day. One of my classes we start with a news clip from the CBC. So everything from the TPP trade agreement to Turkey and Russia. So it really helps all of us relate whatever we're studying to something that's going on in the world. And it takes 3-4 minutes, and it's a great way to start my class on time.
There's always one or two little monsters who just don't get to put their phone away, and I've collected them and or screamed in my screaming voice, which is not that loud sometimes. But I keep tabs as well, and I've mentioned it to parents that they can't see to put the device down. But that's only like a few kids, and it seems to be consistently they're the same kids all the time in any class.
Negative. Okay, so in the classroom, as you know, I run the library, so I think it's less to do with my actual classroom, because I guess I'm a little bit more of a surveyor of what students are doing in my classroom. But the library, I think, is more kind of fair game. Negative aspects of technology, gee, well, I don't know. Social media seems to really occupy many students' attention. I think oftentimes they're not able to understand the value of education, that there needs to be an even balance, struck. Technology is there. I understand it's become like your third appendage. I respect the fact that we are connected via social media, but at the same time, if that's depriving students of focusing in on academics, and hopefully, with the pursuit of graduating from Mackenzie, that there has to be this kind of medium. Second to that, though, the library in and of itself is a beast. I often find students surfing online, and not only on my hard drive computers here in the actual lab, but also on their own cell phones, etc. And of course, much of which is either graphics, so graphic video games, which I've had to commend to multiple times.
A negative aspect? To me, there aren't really any negative aspects. I guess supposedly if a student is using a smartphone to whatever, message someone or whatever, I guess that's negative, but it's their loss.
It can be frustrating if maybe a previous teacher used maybe the DVD player and then the speaker's not hooked up, or if a cord has been kicked out, you're kind of fumbling at the front of the room while 30 people are waiting for you to start, right? So they've made it there on time, and it almost makes me feel like I'm ill prepared, but I feel like it's something kind of out of my control, because 9 times out of 10 it does work, but that 1 out of 10 time you kind of feel foolish, to be honest.
Oh, I think it's like probably you're getting the same answers over and over again. It's the battle of distraction, right, in class, and in the compulsive nature to check all the time. You have this thing that's in your pocket buzzing, and that tells you any natural, normal person is going to want to check that. So I think the battle is. It's really about self-discipline, but I wouldn't say that adults are any better at it. You go out to restaurants and you see people when they should be socializing on their cell phones instead, and so I think it's just an indication of how our society is changing. So I think it's the distraction from what we're doing is the hardest part, but I think it's a battle that our society faces generally.
Positive and negative. I think that it depends on the students you're teaching. I teach mostly Macs and Gifted, and they usually use their cell phones appropriately, but I could see where it would be a massive distraction where you don't have technology in front of you in the classroom, you're sitting on desks, and you can't always see if you're working with a student up front of the teacher desk, you can't see that the kid's actually playing on their cell phone. I know that there are places where they actually collect all the cell phones. You walk in the room, you put your cell phone in a bin, and you collect it at the end of the class to make sure that they're not using it.
I'm assuming in a similar fashion to all other high schools, technology, in my opinion, is phenomenal. You can get all information that you need quickly. The World Wide Web is amazing. So positive, 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 positive.
I think in a positive way. I think we need more. I think in the sense that, I just taught at a laptop school in Malaysia, and it was an Ontario curriculum school, and there were such wonderful things that we could do if every student had access to a laptop and a network that was consistent. But I would love to see smart boards, and smart boards I see as more a tool for students to be able to get out of their chair, go over to the board, and actually manipulate information. That's what I would like to see, because I think that's going to be what they're going to be doing in many of their jobs later on. That's the kind of future of technology anyway. It's being able to physically manipulate information, and so to have that would be great, but we also need a bazillion dollars. So we're waiting for Bill Gates to donate to our school, right? But I think I think that, yeah, it's necessary.